of a trade war with our biggest trading partner. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is doubling down on his so-called joke to annex Canada and make it a 51st U.S. state, threatening to use what he calls economic force to make that happen.
Why are we supporting a country, $200 billion plus a year? Our military is at their disposal. All of these other things, they should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down.
Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No. Economic force.
Those remarks that the president-elect wants to use economic force to annex Canada led to this response by outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
That's not going to happen. Canadians are incredibly proud of being Canadian. What I think is happening in this is President Trump, who's a very skillful negotiator, is getting people to be somewhat distracted by that conversation, to take away from the conversation around 25% tariffs.
Those 25% tariffs could wreak havoc on Canada's economy and risk millions of jobs. With me now to talk more about that is the former Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien. Mr. Chrétien, welcome back to our studios, and happy birthday to you as well.
Oh, thank you very much. You know, I'm only 91, so I'm a kid.
You are.
Because I lost a sister, she was 100, and a brother 99, wow. Another brother 95. So you're not about to get rid of me.
I was going to say, I'll have years more of being able to interview. I look forward to it. I wanted to start off on a little bit more of a serious note when it comes to what's happening south of the border, and in particular, incoming President Donald Trump's threats on a number of different levels. First, of course, around tariffs, but lately, and more specifically this week, even calling on annexing Canada becoming the 51st state through economic coercion or economic force. What has been going through your head as you watch him make those comments?
You know, it's not new that the Americans look at Canada. We even had a war in 1812, and we burned the White House. So, you know, I don't take that seriously, because I don't think it will happen. It's not in the interest of America not to have a good neighbor like Canada north. And for Mr. Trump, he does not realize that if Canada had been part of the US a few weeks ago, he would have never become president, because the Canadians would not have voted for him. And he would have lost clearly the Congress, because there's only 2 or 3 seats. Canadians are not right-wingers a la Trump. You know, the Canadians love our values, they love our mentality, they love the kind of society we have, a much more generous, tolerant society, and we don't have ghettos like they have, and that type of problem they have. We have less poor, and of course less rich than they have, and Canadians are very proud. And I read not long ago, there was a poll taken around the globe, and Canada is still the best destination. They were asking the people, if you are to start again your life, where would you like to do that? And the majority were for Canada, way ahead of America.
So aside from him talking about us as a state or annexation, he has made a very specific threat about imposing 25% tariffs, a blanket tariff on all Canadian imports. If you were, you served not only as Prime Minister, but Finance Minister. If you were still in either of those roles, how worried would you be about the prospect of a trade war between these two countries?
We always had that type of problem. When I was Prime Minister, when I was Minister of Finance, when I was Minister of Trade, I was dealing with the Americans in 1968 when I was Minister of Northern Affairs, and I had problem between Yukon and Alaska. So, there is always some problems. We always resolve them easily. And, apparently he said this morning that he does not need our electricity. Fine. If he wants us to cut off the electricity, he will have to walk up the Trump Tower with candles to go to his office, because the state of New York rely a lot on electricity coming from Canada, mainly from Hydro-Quebec. So it's not realistic. He loves to be in the news, and the news give him a lot of space. But the reality is the reality. And my view is I'm not losing sleep over that, because they will probably suffer much more than we'll do if we have that type of war.
You think that's true?
Oh, yes.
My understanding is that, even in those visits to Mar-a-Lago, for example, what the people around Trump in his administration have communicated to our federal government is, yes, both sides will hurt in a trade war, but their belief is that Canada's economy will be more impacted. And I think economists have said that as well.
They're not to say the contrary when they want to negotiate. But I know that, we're in a better position because what they buy from us, they really need it. We can't go elsewhere than Florida if we want. We can get orange juice and a lot of products from other nations. But the electricity is not coming by truck or pipeline. And the type of oil they buy from Alberta, if they don't buy it from Alberta, they will have to buy it from Venezuela because it's a special type of oil they buy mostly from us. And they cannot replace it by something else. And it is all our oil in their calculation is part of the security of supply in their security rules for them. They consider that they will have access to this oil as long as they need it.
So taking into account what you've said so far, how do you think the Canadian government and politicians really at all levels of all parties, what do you think the response should be like to navigate through this?
So far so good. We're not losing our cool. I remember when I said no to the war in Iraq, everybody were excited. I remained calm, and nothing happened. There is no retaliation at all, as I said, because what they're buying from us, they need it. And for me, it's, it is, so far, Prime Minister spoke. He spoke in United States at CNN, and he made it clear that Canada is not for sale, and Canadians are proud to be Canadian, and we don't want to become Americans. And the premiers did that, especially Mr. Ford was very good on that. And for me, we should not lose our cool. I've been in that game for a few years, and I think that to remain calm and face it seriously. And now they will have a meeting of all the premiers with the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister. I had myself announced that I was not to run anymore when I said no to the war in Iraq. And they took me seriously because not a soldier went there.
So you don't think our positioning or his positioning even is weakened by the fact that he's, as of March 9th or so, not going to be there?
A Prime Minister can die tomorrow, and Canada will keep going. So for me, I'm not too excited about it.
I mentioned Prime Minister Trudeau and his positioning right now. There's only a small group of people in this country who know what it's like to figure out when is the right time to go. Do you feel that Prime Minister Trudeau made the right decision, and do you think he waited too long?
Of what?
To leave.
Oh, but that is his choice and his situation. But you have to leave at one time. And he decided to leave at this time. And it was his privilege. He could have stayed. Of course, he was facing some turbulence, and it's happening all the time. In politics, it's like that. I used to say that the opposition are, the opponent. The enemies very often are in your back. So, but, he had served well for three terms. He was great for the Liberal Party. He took us in third position, and he won the election for us. And he's been two minority government, and his third minority government, he's done something that nobody else have ever been able to do. Usually a minority government never survive more than 2.5 years. Now he's in his 4th year. It's unique. But the time has come in his judgment to go, and he's gone. And we'll have another one eventually within apparently the 9th of March.
Yeah, within a very short period of time. And he has certainly taken the party through 3 elections successfully. But for the last year, the party has considerably trailed the Conservatives in public opinion polling. Do you think, given what we do know about how short the race is and how soon an election might happen, that the next leader will be able to mount a challenge really to the Conservatives.
You know, just to show to you how volatile is sometimes the situation. In the election of 1993, you know, Mulroney, when he quit, he was more unpopular than Trudeau today. And he resigned. I was 22, 23 ahead of him. Kim Campbell came 2-3 weeks after she became the Prime Minister. She was ahead of me by 10 or 15 points. So there was a turnaround in a month of 35%.
But she ultimately
And
lost.
after that, she faced me, and whoop, you know, she lost her seat, and she finished only with 2 seats. And all that happened in the period of 6 months. You know, everybody was surprised that when she lost her seat, finished with 2 seats, and they had 12% of the vote, something like that. So, you know, things can change quickly.
Do you think that the party should, in this next election, move more to the center? There's a lot of MPs talking about that.
I'm sure they will.
Why are you sure?
Because I've talked to all the candidates, and it is a fundamental condition for the party to come back, to be the radical center, as I used to say, because it is what has been the Liberal Party all along. When I was leader, I was traveling the world, and they would ask me, because if you're in Europe, a liberal tend to be center-right, but strong on human rights. And in the United States, it's the left. So they would ask me, Mr. Chrétien, what is a liberal in Canada? And I would say, when in Canada, the left says of you, you're a right-winger. And when the people on the right says you're a left-winger, you're a good Canadian liberal chrétien, the radical center. And I think the party is coming back there, I'm sure.
I will leave it on that note, Mr. Chrétien. Happy birthday once again, and thank you for your time today.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.